Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to remove taillight tint from your taillights. Alright, so maybe you previously tinted your taillights, now you want to change that look, or maybe the previous owner of your car tinted taillights and that's just not something you're into. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to remove that quickly and easily. Alright, so for reference, the taillight on the right has already had the tint removed, and the one on the left is the one we're going to work on today. A couple of things that you're going to have for this. You're going to get yourself a can of brake parts cleaner. It doesn't have to be this exact brand, but any sort of brake parts cleaner will work. We're also going to want some rubbing compound or a good cleaner wax. We'll use that after we've gotten the tint off to polish up the taillights. And then we're also going to want some sort of towel or rag. I prefer to use a microfiber cloth. If you don't have one of those, that's okay. A regular washcloth or towel will do. All right, so a couple more things before we get started. The brake parts cleaner has a pretty strong smell, so you really want to use that either outside or in a well-ventilated area. You might also want to get a pair of work gloves to use while you're doing this. That way you keep that stuff off your skin. Another consideration you might want to also have is you can do this on the car if you really want to, but I highly recommend doing this off of the car like I'm doing here today. That way you don't have to worry about getting the things like the brake cleaner on your paint or anything like that. So like I said, I highly recommend taking them off the car and doing them on a bench like we're doing today. And lastly, whoever did your tint, if it wasn't you, may have sanded the surface of the taillight before they applied the tint to help that adhere a little bit better. If that's the case, you're going to have an extra step that we're not really going to cover today, where you'll have to put a coat of clear coat on your taillight at the end. All we're covering in today's video is how to get the tint off. So if you do find that once you get the tint off, you have a rough, not so shiny and clear surface, that's what you'll have to do. You'll have to go ahead and prep that and apply a clear coat. All right, so with that said, I think that's all I needed to cover before we really got into this. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so what we want to do here is we're going to get our taillights here flipped over, and we got our brake parts cleaner. We don't want to spray that directly onto the taillight. What you're going to want to do is spray that onto your rag or cloth, whatever you have. Get that nice and wet. This stuff does dry pretty quickly, so you're going to find that you're going to have to spray that on there fairly often. And once you've done that, then you can start just rubbing on the surface of the taillight. And this is going to take some elbow grease to get this off. It's going to take a little while, but keep working that. I recommend working your taillight in sections, just kind of focusing on one little area. So we're going to focus on this rightmost part of the taillight here just for this. Just work your way, up through the surface of the taillight and try to get all this off as best as you can. Like I said, you'll have to apply, especially until the rag gets pretty wet. You'll have to apply the brake cleaner every so often as you go. Just keep working. You can already see that this is starting to come off. You can see the right part of that reverse light is now clear, and on the left side you can still see that tint's on there. So it is working. Like I said, it just does take some elbow grease to do that. So you keep working at it. You can see that the tint's on the rag here, starting to come off on there also. So just keep at it and keep going. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit for you here until I get this section done, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, so I finished removing the tint off of this right piece right here. So what I want to do now is take a little bit of Windex or glass cleaner or something. We're just going to, clean that off, make sure we get any residual brake cleaner off that surface. And once that dries, we're going to use the rubbing compound and go ahead and polish this up. Alright, so let's go ahead and put that on there. This is going to be no different than buffing out a scratch in your paint or waxing your car. I'm just going to go ahead and apply this. Gentle pressure. I'll let that dry, and then we'll go ahead and buff that off. All right, so we can see, you can see now it's pretty easy to see that the reverse light area is nice and clear again, like it should be. This area is, much brighter than the rest of the tail light that we haven't done yet. So it's turned out pretty well. And as I showed earlier, we have a finished tail light here that I've already done. Very similar here. You can see that all the lights nice and clear. No tint left on anything. Like I mentioned earlier, if the person who did the tint didn't sand the surface of the taillight before they sprayed it, this is pretty much it. You're all done. But if they did, and you see that the surface is sort of rough, and you can tell that it's been sanded before, you're going to have an extra step here where you'll have to go ahead and prep that surface for some clear coat. So I recommend a good high quality automotive grade clear coat in a spray can that you can use, and then follow the instructions on that to go ahead and apply it. All right, like I said, that's pretty much it. Just a little bit of elbow grease to go ahead and get this off, and you're good to go. All right, everybody, that's pretty much it for today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.